That sentence didn't hurt him in the moment. It echoed. It settled somewhere deeper than pride, somewhere that would not let him forget. And the silence that followed was louder than anything she said. Ethan Calloway stood on the polished sidewalk outside a cafe in Greenwich, Connecticut, watching Sloane Harrington walk away without once looking back. Her heels clicked in a steady rhythm that felt deliberate, almost rehearsed, like she had imagined this moment before, like she had been preparing to leave long before she said it out loud. He didn't chase her. He didn't call her name. He didn't even move, because something inside him understood this wasn't a moment to fix. It was a moment that revealed everything. Ethan had never been the kind of man people noticed first. He wasn't loud. He wasn't flashy. He didn't carry wealth like armor. But he carried something else. Discipline. Consistency. A quiet, almost stubborn belief that effort compounded into something meaningful over time. Sloane had once admired that. At least, she said she did. Back when his ambition felt like a promise instead of a delay. Back when not yet still sounded like soon. But somewhere along the way, her patience turned into evaluation. And her evaluation turned into disappointment. And her disappointment turned into distance. Ethan saw it happen in small ways first. The way she checked her phone more often during dinner. The way her laughter became polite instead of natural. The way her questions shifted from curiosity to comparison. What do you think you'll be making in 2 years? Do you ever feel like you're falling behind? Everyone else seems to be moving faster. He answered honestly every time, because honesty was the only thing he knew how to offer. I'm building something stable. I don't want shortcuts. I want it to last. But stability doesn't impress someone who is chasing acceleration. And patience looks like failure to someone who measures worth in immediacy. The truth was, Ethan wasn't broke. But he wasn't impressive either. He had a modest apartment, a reliable but unremarkable car, a job that paid enough to survive and invest carefully. He was growing, just not at a speed that created visible excitement. And Sloane wanted excitement, not in a reckless way, but in a way that made her feel like she was not wasting time. Because to her, time was not something you experienced. It was something you optimized. And in her eyes, Ethan was not optimizing fast enough. So she made a decision, a clean one, a decisive one, the kind that looked strong on the outside and complicated on the inside. Let's break up. I can't spend my youth on someone who has nothing. Those words were not said with anger. They were said with clarity, and that made them heavier, because anger can be argued with. But clarity rarely leaves room for negotiation. Ethan went home that night and did something unusual. He did not try to distract himself. He did not call his friends. He did not open social media. He sat in the quiet of his apartment and replayed every moment of the past year. Not to blame her, not to defend himself, but to understand. Because understanding was the only way forward that made sense to him. And what he realized was uncomfortable. She wasn't entirely wrong. Not in her feelings, not in her expectations. She wanted a life that felt secure and accelerated. And he was offering a life that was uncertain and slow. Both were valid, but they were not aligned. And alignment matters more than affection when time is involved. Before we go further, tell me this. If you were in Ethan's position, would you have tried to prove her wrong immediately, or would you have walked away and let time answer for you? He chose the second option, not because he didn't care, but because he cared enough not to beg for a version of respect that had to be earned differently. Ethan didn't transform overnight. There was no dramatic turning point. No sudden breakthrough. Just a series of small, consistent decisions. He worked longer hours. But more importantly, he worked smarter. He studied markets. He took calculated risks. He failed quietly in places no one could see. And he learned quietly in ways no one could measure. Months passed, then a year, and then something shifted. Not dramatically, but noticeably. His investments started to return. His network expanded. His confidence changed. Not louder, but steadier. He moved into a better apartment. Bought a better car. Not to impress anyone, but because it made sense at that stage of his life. And one evening, by coincidence or timing or inevitability, he saw her again. Sloane Harrington, at a private event in Scottsdale, Arizona. She looked the same. Refined. Elegant. composed. But there was something different in her eyes. Not regret, not exactly, but awareness. The kind that comes from seeing a different version of a past decision. They spoke briefly, polite, measured. Two people who once knew each other deeply, now navigating each other carefully. "I've heard you're doing well," she said. Ethan nodded. "I'm doing what I plan to do." There was a pause, the kind that carries everything that doesn't get said. And then she asked something unexpected. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if I stayed?" Ethan didn't answer immediately, because that question wasn't simple. It wasn't about the past. It was about the version of the future that never existed. And then he said something that neither of them expected. "I think we would have resented each other." Her expression shifted slightly. Not offended, just surprised. "Because honesty, again, was all he offered. You would have felt like I was holding you back," he continued. "And I would have felt like I wasn't enough yet. And that's not a good place for either of us to live." She nodded slowly, because she understood, not emotionally, but logically. And sometimes logic is the only closure people get. Before they parted, she said one last thing. "You proved me wrong." Ethan shook his head slightly. "No," he said. "I just became who I was always going to be." And that was the difference. He didn't grow to win her back. He grew because growth was always part of him. The breakup didn't create him. It revealed him. And sometimes that's what loss does. Not destroy, but clarify. So here's something to think about. When someone walks away because you're not enough yet, is it rejection, or is it timing exposing a misalignment you couldn't see before? Because not every ending is a failure. Some are just accurate. And accuracy, while painful, is often the most useful truth you can receive.